When I was 14 years old, my parents had just started trusting me enough to babysit my younger brother overnight. So this had to be early 2018. We live in a peaceful and ordinarily safe suburban neighborhood just outside Portland, Oregon. Quiet cul-de-sacs, well-maintained yards, block parties in the summer, and that kind of community where people actually wave to each other. It really is not a place where you need to be paranoid about home invasions or anything like that. It just feels safe, which is part of the reason my parents trusted me to watch my brother, who was 8 at the time. I still live in this house today, though I'm in college now and only come home on breaks. But that night is something I think about every time I'm here alone. Let me tell you about 3 experiences I've had, or people I know have had, with that terrifying feeling of knowing someone is outside your house, watching, waiting. Story 1. The babysitter. The night in question was a Saturday in October. My parents were going to a wedding about 2 hours away and decided to just get a hotel room rather than drive back late. They'd be gone overnight, coming back Sunday afternoon. My brother Jake and I got along pretty well. He was at that age where he still thought I was cool, so babysitting him was easy. My parents left us money for pizza, made sure we had emergency numbers on the fridge, and reminded me about bedtime routines. The evening started normal. Jake and I played Mario Kart for a while, ordered pizza around 6 p.m., pepperoni and sausage from this place called Rusty's that we always went to. The delivery came maybe 40 minutes later. The driver was a younger guy, probably early 20s, with a beanie and a Rusty's t-shirt. Nothing memorable about him at first. I paid with the cash my parents left, told him to keep the change, and he handed me the pizza. As I was closing the door, he said, "You guys home alone tonight?" I hesitated. It was a weird question. "My dad's upstairs," I lied. He nodded, glanced past me into the house, then said, "Cool. Enjoy the pizza." I closed the door and locked it. Didn't think too much about it at the time, but it stuck with me enough that I checked that the door was locked twice. Jake and I ate at the coffee table while watching a movie, some animated thing he picked. I had 3 slices, he had 2, and I wrapped up the rest and put it in the fridge like my mom always did. After the movie, I got Jake ready for bed. He brushed his teeth, changed into pajamas, and I read him a chapter from the book he was working through, some fantasy series about dragons. By 9 p.m. he was asleep. I went back downstairs and settled in on the couch with my phone, scrolling through Instagram and texting friends. The house was quiet. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the house settling. Around 10:30 I heard something outside. At first I thought it was a car door, but it was more of a thud, like something heavy being set down. I muted my phone and listened. Nothing. I went back to scrolling. A few minutes later I heard it again. This time it was closer. Like footsteps on gravel. Our driveway is paved, but the side of the house where the gate to the backyard is, that's gravel. I stood up and walked to the front window, peeking through the curtains. The street was empty. Porch lights on at a few houses, but no movement. No cars. I checked the front door. Locked. I walked to the kitchen and looked out the window that faces the side yard. Too dark to see anything. I could make out the fence line, but everything beyond that was just shadow. Then I heard the gate. The latch clicked open. Not broken, not forced. Just opened. My heart started pounding. I stood frozen in the kitchen, staring at that dark window, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps on the gravel path that leads to the backyard. I backed away from the window and grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I called my mom. She answered on the second ring. "Hey sweetie, everything okay?" "Mom, I think someone's in the backyard." Her tone changed instantly. "What do you mean?" I heard the gate open. And footsteps. Someone's walking around back there. "Are the doors locked?" "Yeah, front and back." I checked. "Okay, stay inside. Lock yourself in the upstairs bathroom with Jake. I'm calling the police right now. Don't hang up." I ran upstairs, went into Jake's room and shook him awake. "Jake, wake up. We need to go to the bathroom." "Why?" He was groggy, confused. "Just come on." I pulled him out of bed and into the hallway bathroom. Locked the door. Sat down on the floor with my back against the tub, Jake next to me still half asleep. My mom was on speakerphone talking to my dad, who was on his other phone with 911. I could hear her telling him our address, describing the situation. "Police are on their way," she said. "They said 5 minutes. Just stay quiet." We sat there in silence. I could hear my own heartbeat. Jake was starting to wake up fully, realizing something was wrong. Then I heard the back door handle rattle. It's a sliding glass door that leads from the kitchen to the patio. I knew I'd locked it. I was sure I'd locked it. But someone was trying it. Pulling on it. Testing it. "Mom, someone's trying the back door," I whispered. I heard her voice crack. "The police are almost there. Just stay where you are." The rattling stopped. Footsteps on the patio. Then nothing. 30 seconds of silence that felt like an hour. Then I heard glass break. Not the sliding door. Something else. Smaller. Maybe a window. Jake started crying. I covered his mouth and held him against me, tears streaming down my own face. I heard footsteps inside the house. Downstairs. Moving through the kitchen. My mom was shouting into the phone now, probably to the 911 operator. "He's inside the house. They're upstairs. Hurry." The footsteps moved to the living room. Then the stairs. Slow, heavy steps. One at a time. Like whoever it was wasn't in a hurry. I thought about the bathroom door. It was just a basic interior door with a push-button lock. Anyone could kick it in. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs. I could hear them in the hallway now. Right outside. The bathroom door handle turned. Locked. Then nothing. Silence. I waited. Jake was shaking against me. I could hear my mom on the phone, but I couldn't process what she was saying. Then I heard it. Sirens. The footsteps immediately moved away from the door. Fast now. Running down the stairs. I heard the back door slide open. Whoever it was must have unlocked it from the inside. The sirens got louder. Multiple cars. I heard car doors slamming. Voices shouting. "Police, show yourself." My mom told me to wait until an officer knocked and identified themselves. It took maybe 3 minutes. A knock on the bathroom door. "Portland PD. You can come out." I unlocked the door. A female officer was standing there. "You're safe now. Come with me." She walked us downstairs. There were 2 officers in the kitchen, another one outside with a flashlight, searching the yard. The small window next to the back door was broken. Glass on the floor. That's how he got in. They asked me questions. Described the timeline. Mentioned the pizza delivery. When I told them about the driver asking if we were alone, one of the officers wrote it down and radioed someone. My parents got home around 1 a.m. They'd left the wedding as soon as we called. My mom held me for like 10 minutes straight. The next day, police went to Rusty's Pizza. Showed them security footage from our doorbell camera. The manager confirmed it was one of their drivers, a guy who'd been working there for about a month. His name was Eric something. Mid-20s. When police went to his address, he was gone. Cleared out his apartment overnight. They found his car abandoned 2 days later in a parking garage downtown. Never found him. We installed a full security system the following week. Cameras at every door. Motion sensors. The works. I didn't babysit Jake alone again for over a year. And even now, when I'm home by myself, I check every lock 3 times and keep my phone next to me. Because I know now that "is anyone home?" isn't a question you should ever answer honestly. Story 2: The Cabin. This happened 2 years ago when I was 22, right after I graduated college. My boyfriend at the time, Marcus, and I decided to celebrate by taking a weekend trip to this cabin his uncle owned in northern Michigan. It was supposed to be romantic. Just the 2 of us, totally disconnected from everything, enjoying nature and each other's company. The cabin was about 3 hours from Detroit, where we both lived. Marcus had been there before with his family, said it was beautiful. Quiet. Peaceful. The kind of place where you can see every star in the sky because there's no light pollution for miles. He wasn't exaggerating about the isolation. The last town we passed through was at least 40 minutes before we reached the turnoff to the property. The road changed from paved to gravel to basically just dirt with tire ruts. The cabin itself was small but nice. 1 bedroom, a main room with a kitchen area and fireplace, and a bathroom with a shower that Marcus warned me was temperamental. The porch wrapped around 3 sides, and the back of the cabin faced directly into dense forest. It was mid-September, so the leaves were just starting to turn. During the day it was gorgeous. We went hiking, cooked on the propane grill, sat on the porch drinking beer and talking. Everything was perfect. The first night was fine. We built a fire in the fireplace, made dinner, and fell asleep around midnight. No issues. The second day was more of the same. We drove into the nearest town for lunch, picked up groceries, came back and spent the afternoon reading on the porch. That evening, as the sun was setting, I was inside making pasta while Marcus was outside chopping more firewood. I was at the sink washing vegetables when I looked up at the window. Someone was standing at the edge of the tree line, maybe 50 feet from the cabin. At first, I thought it was Marcus. Maybe he'd walked around the side of the house for some reason. But then I realized Marcus was still visible on the other side of the cabin, near the woodpile. This person was just standing there. Not moving. Not looking at anything in particular. Just standing at the edge of the forest, facing the cabin. I couldn't make out details. The sun was behind them, creating a silhouette, but I could tell it was a person. Tall. Male probably. Wearing dark clothes. Marcus. I called out. He looked up from the wood. Yeah. There's someone over there. I pointed. He came to the window, looked where I was pointing. Where? Right there at the tree line. He was gone. Marcus squinted. I don't see anyone. He was just there. I swear. Standing right there. We went outside together. Marcus walked toward the spot where I'd seen the figure. I stayed on the porch watching. He reached the tree line, looked around, then came back. Nobody there. No footprints or anything. I saw someone, Marcus. Maybe it was a deer or something. The light plays tricks out here. I wanted to believe him, but I knew what I saw. That wasn't a deer. We went back inside. I couldn't shake the feeling though. While we were eating dinner, I kept glancing out the windows, expecting to see that silhouette again. Around 10 p.m., we were on the couch watching something on Marcus's laptop when the power went out. Complete darkness. The cabin had electricity, but it was spotty, Marcus said. Something about the generator and old wiring. He grabbed a flashlight and went outside to check the breaker. I stayed inside with my phone's flashlight, waiting. He came back a few minutes later. Breaker's fine. Might be the generator. It's in the shed out back. Out back? In the woods. Yeah. Come with me if you want. I did not want to, but I also didn't want to stay inside alone. We walked around to the back of the cabin, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The shed was maybe 30 yards into the trees, just far enough that you couldn't see it from the cabin. Marcus opened the shed door and shined his light inside. The generator was there, along with tools, supplies, firewood. Looks fine, he muttered, checking the fuel levels and connections. While he was looking, I turned and swept my flashlight across the forest. And that's when I saw them. Reflecting the light. About 20 feet away behind a tree. Just watching. Marcus. Hold on, Marcus. Someone's watching us. He turned. I pointed. We both shined our lights at the spot. Nothing. The eyes were gone. Let's go back inside, I said. We walked back to the cabin faster than we'd left. Marcus tried the lights again. Still nothing. We lit candles and used flashlights. The cabin felt different in the dark. Smaller. More exposed. Around midnight, we decided to just go to bed. We locked the doors, a flimsy latch on the front door and a simple slide lock on the back. Not exactly Fort Knox, but it was something. We lay in bed not really sleeping. Just listening. At some point, I don't know what time, maybe 2 a.m., I heard it. Footsteps on the porch. Slow. Heavy. Wood creaking under weight. Marcus heard it too. I felt him tense beside me. The footsteps moved from the front of the cabin around the side. Toward the back. Then they stopped. Right outside the bedroom window. The curtains were drawn, but they were thin. If someone wanted to look in, they could. We didn't move. Barely breathe. A shadow passed across the window. A shape. Human-shaped. Moving slowly past. The footsteps continued around to the back of the cabin. To the back door. We heard the door handle rattle. Once. Twice. Then the footsteps moved to the window next to the door. I could hear breathing. Heavy. Like whoever it was had been walking for a while. Marcus slowly got out of bed, grabbed his hunting knife from his bag. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course there was no signal. The breathing stopped. The footsteps moved again. Back around the side of the cabin. Toward the front. And then they stopped. Complete silence. We waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. Marcus whispered, I'm going to check. No. Don't. We can't just sit here all night. He went to the front door, knife in hand, and looked through the small window next to it. Shined his flashlight outside. There's nobody out there. He opened the door slightly and stepped onto the porch. I followed against my better judgment. The porch was empty. No movement in the yard. Nothing at the tree line. But as we turned to go back inside, Marcus stopped. Pointed down. There were muddy footprints on the porch. Fresh. Leading up to the front door, around the side, all the way to the back and then back to the front. But they didn't lead away. They just stopped. Right at the edge of the porch. Like whoever made them had just vanished. We left at 5 a.m. Didn't wait for sunrise. Packed everything in 15 minutes and drove out of there as fast as the dirt road would allow. Marcus called his uncle later that day and told him what happened. His uncle was quiet for a long time, then said, You saw him. Saw who? There's a man who lives out in those woods. Has for years. Local cops know about him, but they can't do anything because he's not technically on anyone's property. He just wanders. Watches cabins. Sometimes breaks in when people aren't there. Why didn't you tell me before we went? Because he's never bothered anyone. Just looks. That's not just looking. He was on the porch. His uncle didn't have a response to that. Marcus and I broke up a few months later for unrelated reasons. But I've never been back to that cabin. And I've never been comfortable in remote places since. Because I know now that isolation isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it just means there's no one around to hear you scream. Story 3, the college apartment. I'm 25 now, but this happened when I was 21, living off campus at Arizona State. I had a small one-bedroom apartment in Tempe, about 15 minutes from campus. It was an older complex, built in the 80s with that typical Southwest stucco exterior and red tile roofs. My unit was on the second floor, which I liked because I felt safer not being on ground level. I lived alone, my choice. I'd had roommates freshman and sophomore year, and by junior year I was done with other people's mess and noise. I worked part-time at a coffee shop to cover rent, and my parents helped a little when I needed it. The apartment itself was fine. Small but functional. Kitchen, living room, bedroom, bathroom. A little balcony that overlooked the parking lot. Nothing special. I'd been living there for about 4 months when things started feeling off. It began with small things. I'd come home and feel like things had been moved. Nothing major. My laptop would be at a slightly different angle on my desk. A kitchen cabinet would be open that I was sure I'd closed. My bedroom door would be cracked when I always shut it completely. I chalked it up to being forgetful. College stress, working late, not sleeping enough. Easy to second-guess yourself. Then I started noticing the smell. Cigarette smoke. Faint but distinct. I didn't smoke. None of my neighbors smoked, or at least not where I could smell it. But sometimes, late at night, I'd catch a whiff of it in my living room. One night in October, I was lying in bed around 11 p.m., scrolling through my phone before sleep, when I heard something on my balcony. A scraping sound. Like metal on concrete. I froze. Listened. Silence. Then it happened again. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. I got up slowly and walked to my bedroom door, which faced the living room. The balcony door was glass with vertical blinds. They were closed, but there was a gap where the slats didn't quite meet. I could see a shadow moving outside. Someone was on my balcony. My second-floor balcony. I immediately locked myself in the bathroom and called 911. Told them someone was trying to break into my apartment. Police arrived in maybe 8 minutes. By the time they got there, whoever it was had gone. The balcony was empty. The sliding door was still locked. But there were marks. Scrapes on the balcony railing like someone had climbed up using something metal, a pipe maybe, or a tool. And there were footprints in the dust. The officers took a report. Checked around the building. Said they'd increase patrols in the area. One of them suggested I get a security camera. I ordered one that night. A cheap Ring camera that I installed on my balcony door the next day. For about a week, nothing happened. I started to relax. Told myself it was probably just some drunk college kid who got confused about which apartment was his. Then I checked the camera footage. There were dozens of clips. All from between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Motion-activated recordings of someone standing on my balcony just outside the glass door, staring in. I couldn't see their face clearly, the porch light was off and they always stayed in the shadows. But I could see the shape. Tall. Male. Wearing a hoodie. Every night. For a week. Just standing there. I called the police again. Showed them the footage. They said they'd investigate, but unless the person actually tried to break in or threaten me, there wasn't much they could do. I called my landlord. He said he'd talk to the other tenants, see if anyone had seen anything suspicious. Nobody had. I started staying at friends' places. Too scared to sleep in my own apartment. But my lease wasn't up for another 7 months and I couldn't afford to break it. So I tried to make it work. I kept the camera running. Installed a second lock on the balcony door. Closed the blinds completely. Kept a knife next to my bed. 2 weeks went by. No more footage. No more sounds. I started to think whoever it was had given up. Then one night, I came home from a closing shift at the coffee shop around midnight. I unlocked my front door, stepped inside, and immediately knew something was wrong. The smell. Cigarette smoke. Strong. Recent. I backed toward the door, hand on the handle, ready to run. Then I saw it. On my coffee table. A cigarette butt. Still smoking. Still lit. Someone had been inside my apartment. Seconds ago. I ran. Didn't grab anything. Didn't lock the door behind me. Just ran down the stairs and out to my car. I called 911 from my car. Waited for police with the doors locked and the engine running. When they searched my apartment, they found the balcony door unlocked. Open. Someone had come in from the balcony. Somehow climbed up, picked the lock or forced it and come inside while I was at work. They checked the footage. The camera had been unplugged. Just unplugged from inside the apartment. Whoever it was knew exactly where it was. That was it for me. I broke the lease, paid the fee, moved in with a friend and never went back except to get my stuff, and even then I brought 3 people with me. The landlord eventually told me that the tenant before me had moved out suddenly too. Wouldn't say why. Just left in the middle of the night and never came back for her deposit. I think whoever was watching me had been watching her too. Maybe other people before that. I don't know who it was. The police never figured it out. No arrests. No answers. But I know that when you're alone, when you think you're safe in your own home, you might not be as alone as you think. And I know that locks only work if the person outside doesn't have a way in that you haven't thought of. Thanks for watching. If you've ever had that feeling, that someone's outside watching, waiting, trust it. Lock your doors. Call for help. Don't second guess yourself. Stay safe out there.